Exercise 7. In this exercise, we're going to learn how to create a unique type of curve. It's called a projected curve. It actually takes its sources from two separate planes. In this case, we will draw something on the front plane, and then we'll draw something on the right plane, and where they intersect, they generate a three-dimensional curve. So we begin by going to File, New, select Part File. Make sure you're in ANSI inch. Not necessarily for a template. You probably don't have the ANSI inch template, but that just means that you have to go to Tools Options and set those up. We select the front plane, and then we start our sketch. And then from the origin, we take the line tool and draw a vertical line straight up, about 2 inches high. Then click to drop it. The next thing we're going to use is a tool called Center Point Arc. This is our first time using this tool. It's unique in that it takes a couple points to generate the arc. The first thing you have to locate, in this case I've zoomed out, and you could even pan your screen down a little bit because you have to give yourself some room up above it. And we just go ahead and we glide up above our line, maybe about 1.5 inches or so, and then we click once we invert to the center. And we drag, and then we click again on the vertex of the line that we drew just a moment ago. Now we move our pointer to the right, and you can see we could scroll around with our pointer. We could actually rotate around, and we will get an arc. Now if we wanted to reverse it, we could just move the other way. But in this case, we just want A to equal maybe less than 330. And then click. And that's how you generate a 3-point arc. I'm sorry, that's a center point arc. Okay, the next thing we need to do is we need to take the centerline tool and draw a centerline from the end point of this arc to its center point. And then escape. Another thing we need to do is establish a relationship between the center point of the arc and the vertical line. If you look right now, even though we did infer to it, it doesn't lock in with the relationship. It just snaps to an inference point, which means that it's not fully defined as of yet. So to resolve that, we just hold the Control key and we select the center point and we select the vertical line somewhere in the middle of it. And then you'll see here, we can make coincidence or make to midpoint. We can make it coincidence, or over here we can make it coincident as well. Either one is fine. It looks at the line as though it's infinite, so it's actually making it coincident to somewhere at a point of infinity. All right, now we need to add our dimensions. So let's go to Smart Dimension. The radius is going to be 1.5, and the distance from the origin to the center point is going to be 4 inches. Now we have to dimension the angle. The angle is derived from the center line that we drew. If you don't have the center line, it's a little more difficult to add the angle in, but that's why we added it. So let's go ahead and select the center, or somewhere in the middle of the center line here, and then click on the vertical line. And then click again to drop. Now I have to just check what this is 15 degrees. Okay, and we're fully defined. We just now need to add a radius of 1 inch at this point. So we could use our sketched fillet. We select that, set it to 1 inch, and click the intersection. Or you could select both arc and line. Either one is fine. Lay your dimensions out nicely. And now we're ready to just exit the sketch. And to do that, we could hit the rebuild button up at the very top, or Control B as in boy. Okay, that's our front view sketch. Now we need to make a right side view sketch. So we select the right plane from the feature tree, click on the sketch tool right away, and let's go normal to. Now to get normal to that right view, we go up here to view orientation and click on normal to. It rotates us, or you could select the right side view. Either one's fine. And now we're going to draw a line from the origin straight up. Now be careful if you're watching me do this on the screen. You don't want to snap to any of these points that you might see on the sketch below it. What you're actually looking at, that gray and that orange line, are the actual sketches that we drew on the front plane just a moment ago. But we're rotated perpendicular to it, so they just appear like a single line. So we don't want midpoints like this. You just want to stay floating on this line somewhere right around here. Make sure the symbol looks the same as mine. That means coincident. You don't want midpoint, or you don't want to snap to another point. Okay, once you click, then release it, and then drag it out kind of like at a 45-degree angle, somewhat like that, and then about an inch long. And then click, drag this up, and drag it up and above the other line that you can see there. About 3.5 inches works. Click again to release it. And then hit the escape key on your keyboard. Hit it a couple times. All right, now we're going to go ahead and add the dimensions. Now, there looks like there is a bit of a strange one. Excuse me. If you look at the actual picture that you're supposed to be sketching, you can see we have this is 1 inch wide. There's a 2-inch TSC and a 3-inch TSC. TSC stands for theoretical sharp corner. As you can see, there's radii in here. So what I was dimensioning to was a point at which both the straight lines intersected one another before the radius was put in. If you decide to put the radii in right now, it's a little bit more of a challenge to put the theoretical sharp point in, but all you do is you just hold the control key, select both lines, and then you select the point tool on your toolbar, and you'll be able to add that. But anyway, it will add it automatically if we add them after we add the dimensions. So we have this 2-inch TSC. Let's see how that works. Okay, what was that dimensioning to? Well, what that is that's a dimension from, again, it's a dimension from the theoretical sharp corner at the bottom to a point somewhere over here. What that point is actually the center of our sketch on the front view, the center point. So we're going to go to dimension. We'll select this point right here, and then using your arrow keys on your keyboard, the right arrow key, you could hit it once or twice, and you'll see it start to rotate and expose more of that view that was on the front. And we just want to select the center point here. Click on it, drag it out a little bit, click again to drop it, and that will be 2 inches. Alright, now you could hit the left arrow key twice to get back to your original view orientation, or you could go normal to, or you could go to the right side view up here under view orientation. Alright, then this line, just click on that. That's going to be 3 inches. And then this angled line, click on it, just drag it straight up, and that's going to be 1 inch. The next thing we have to add is a 130-degree angle between this line and that angled line. So we'll just click on the vertical line here, and then click on this angled line somewhere right in the middle of it. Drag it out, click again, and that will be 130. Now we could go ahead and add our sketched fillet. Again, there should be 1 inch. You just click on the vertex or the corner there, and click on the corner here. And that's how we generate it. And as you can see, it still dimensions to these points. Those are virtual sharps, as they're called inside SolidWorks. If you click on them, you have options. You could display them differently if you like as individual points, or show them as what you see there. Alright, we are finished with that sketch. Now we need to exit it. We can hit the rebuild button to do that. If for some reason you need to get back to one of your sketches because you might have made a mistake, you could just simply click on the sketch and you'll find Edit Sketch on one of the options that appears. And that will bring you back into it. Just remember, you can't switch between sketches instantly. You have to first exit one sketch, then you can enter into a new sketch. Alright, now we can see we have two sketches here. What we want to do now is we want to combine them into one three-dimensional guide curve. And the way we do this is we go here to Insert, and we find Curve, and then we find Projected. Click on that, and you'll see there's selections. There's Sketch onto Sketch or Sketch onto Face. Make sure on the left here it says Sketch onto Sketch. It usually defaults to that. Now select both curves from the view screen, and you'll begin, once they're both selected, you can see a highlight of the preview where it's combining the two elements of both sketches into a three-dimensional curve. Hit the green check mark to apply. And now you should have your 3D guide curve. The next thing we want to do is we want to sweep along that a profile. Now, I drew this off of the origin for a reason, so we have a nice plane at the end there, and it just so happens to be the top plane. We didn't have to create any new planes. And as you can see here, here's my top plane. If I select it, I could go ahead and start a sketch. And I'm going to take the circle tool and draw out a 1/2-inch diameter circle. So we go to Smart, draw it out, go to Dimension tool, 0.5, and apply that. Now we need to sweep it. If we go to Features and we look for the sweep tool, you'll see it's not active. There's a reason for this. It's because basically you have to go in and you have to rebuild to exit the one sketch. So just hit rebuild, and now you can see Sweep Boss Base is available. Select it, and now select the profile, which is the circle, and then select the path, which is the blue guide curve. And you'll begin to see a preview. If the preview looks like what I have up on the screen, you're good to go. You could go ahead and hit the green check mark to apply. And there is our little foot pad, which is going to be on a grill. Generally what we're designing here is a grill that you would see on the back of a computer. It's for a fan, so no one sticks their fingers in it. The dimensions on this are very large. I just made them simple dimensions so I could remember them as I go through it, usually without having to look back at the training manual. So it's a very large grill. Okay, anyhow, now what we want to do is we need to go ahead onto the next part of the manual. Okay, the next section says start a sketch on the front plane and draw the following. So off of that origin, on the front plane, we're going to draw a vertical line 7 inches long, and then we're going to have a little radius at the end with a 45-degree angle stop built in. So we'll select the front plane, start our sketch, and we'll go normal too. Might want to zoom out a little bit or pan this. And then we'll go ahead and select the line tool, glide up to the origin, click and drag out a 7-inch line. Make sure you get the little symbol indicating that you are vertical. And then find your tangent arc tool found under here. Click on it, click on the vertex at the very bottom of your part, draw a little hook at the base. And A should be equal to less than 90 degrees. So like I have 55.58, that's fine. And we'll zoom up there. Get a little work done here. Now we're going to go ahead and select the center line tool, draw our center line again from the center point to the endpoint of the arc. We can now go to Smart Dimension. Click on the line, click and drag it out. Make sure it's set to 7 inches. Then click on the arc, set it to 1 inch. And then click on the center line, somewhere in the middle of it, and then select the 7-inch vertical line, somewhere in the middle of it, which you can see here. And drag it in between there, click to drop it, and this is going to be 45 degrees. As long as it's fully defined, you could continue on. Alright, we're done with that sketch. Now what we need to do is exit it. So we'll hit the rebuild button. The next thing to do is zoom up to this endpoint of the solid model that you generated. Select this bottom face, start your sketch on it, and then you could go right to Convert Entities while it's still selected. If it's deselected for some reason, make sure you select the edge or this face so it highlights like that. Hit Convert Entities, and that converted the edges of the model for us for a sketch that we can now sweep. The nice thing about this, if we don't use a dimension, because this curve has what they call an on-edge relationship with that solid, if we ever decide to change that half-inch diameter on the solid, this curve will update as well. So the whole model theoretically is linked together because of this tool, which is called Convert Entities. Now, Convert Entities, here you don't notice it as much, but basically it's a projection tool. It allows you to take any edge or topology of geometry and convert it or project it to a sketch plane that you're working on, and then you could use it. Works great for copying holes from one part to another, and there's many uses for it. Okay, now we need to sweep this, so we're going to hit the rebuild button. And of course we go back to Features and we see Sweep Boss Face. Select the converted edge for the profile, and then select the line for the path. Hit the green check mark to apply. We've just basically extended our geometry. Normally you wouldn't have had to have done both of these steps. You could have drawn this whole thing out all at one time. But I wanted to just show you some different techniques and take it one block at a time, you might say, a little bit slower than normal. Okay, now we need to mirror it. To mirror, we just select this end face here, and then we find the mirror tool. Now, over here on the left, you don't want features to mirror because there's a couple features in there. Instead, I would suggest using bodies to mirror. With bodies to mirror selected, over on the left here, select the body. You might see a little bit of a preview of the topology or the edges show up. That's fine. Hit the green check mark, and now you have both sides. That's why we drew that little angled line at the bottom here, 45 degrees. So if we multiply that by mirroring it, we get 90 degrees. The next phase of this is to create the concentric rings. If we look at the training manual, we now have to draw what we see right here, which is a series of four concentric rings. You can see their dimension off of the center from the right side view, and the original is a distance gap from the center to the first one is 1.25, and then 2.5 for all consecutive ring location. The diameter of the ring is 0.5. So we'll go ahead and select our right plane from the feature tree and start our sketch. We'll also go normal to, or to the right side view. Now what we want to do is we want to capture that center that we saw there. What you can do in this case is you could go up here to the display style and select wireframe. Now take your centerline tool, make sure you're in the sketch. You should have been in the sketch automatically as if you followed through. If not, hit rebuild select the right plane, select Start Sketch, and then you should be here. Okay, anyhow, what we want to do is find the center. If I zoom up at the very bottom of this, we could glide up to this edge and it will wake it up. Wake up the center point. That center point is our center for the model. So once you lock into that, click and drag out a horizontal line about 1.5 inches. Seems to work, or any length, just so you can see it. Okay. Now, if it's not black like it shows here, that means it didn't lock into the center. Go back to center line, delete this one, retry it again. But mine turned out black, so it's fully defined. Now what I want to do is I want to add some circles, or one circle. I'll go to the circle tool, and the circle is going to be on this side on the right, so I'm going to click and drag it in. Now I'm drawing out a radius of like 0.25 is what we want to get to because it's a 1/2 inch diameter circle. I'm drawing it just a little bit bigger, and what I want to do is I just want to intersect this model. As you can see here, I'm not drawing it towards tangent to the edge. If you do that, you be prepared to, when you revolve it, that they're going to be separate bodies. You want to intersect it just a little bit like I have here. Go ahead and go to Smart Dimension, select the radius, the diameter, and it's going to be 0.5, and then select the center point to the origin here, and give yourself the distance between those two, and those should be 0.49. So you're basically intersecting by about 0.005, 5/1000 of an inch. All right, or 10,000. Basically, now the next thing we want to do is we want to go ahead and we're going to distance this. So we'll select the center line to the circle, and that's going to be 1.25. And now it's fully defined. I would suggest zooming out a little bit like I'm doing here. And the next thing we have to do is we have to make 3 additional circles, all spaced 2.5 inches from the first one. So we'll select the circle. Make sure you hit escape a couple times before you do this. Select the circle so it's highlighted. Now you could go over here to linear sketch pattern and select it. Now what we want to do here is we don't want any in the direction 1. What we do want, the y-axis down here, we want a total of 4. And the distance is going to be 2.5. And you could click on the 4 again if you want to see it update. And if we're set to 2.5, we should see a preview. We could select Add Dimension as a checkbox option to help fully define it. And hit the green check mark to apply. You'll see that it's not fully defined in terms of it's still blue. What does that mean? If I click on one of the center points, you'll see that it could float at an angle. So all we have to do to correct that is select the line that it drew in for us and apply a vertical relationship. And now it's fully defined. The next thing we want to do here is we'll go to a shaded mode under View, Display, Shaded. And we want to go ahead and revolve this. Now we're not going to revolve it a full 360 degrees because then we would have to do a little more extra work to get this mirrored over to the other side. We want to get that all done with just two features. So what we're going to do is a little trick. We're going to go to Features, and we're going to go to Revolve Boss Base. And instead of one direction here on the left, we're going to select 2 directions. And instead of 360 degrees, we'll put in 45. And then click on the second one and put in 135. 135 plus 45 equals 180 degrees. So we'll make a half of this. Now we need to select over here the axis of revolution. So that's that little axis that we drew, the center line, down at the bottom. Now in your preview, you might get something that looks like this. Technically, I could have put 135 at the top and 45 at the bottom, and it would have been fine. But since I didn't, I have to hit this reverse direction button to the left of 2 directions. And then we could see that the highlight gives us a preview of what we were, at least what I was expecting. If you did not use if you didn't draw in that little additional 5 or 10 thousandths of an inch intersection between these circles and the solid model, if you turn off merge results, it will work. If you leave it on, you might get a little error message. Just be aware of that. But I'm going to leave merge results on. That creates a Boolean operation where it unites the two. So let's go ahead and hit the green check mark to apply. Now we have half of this done. The other half is going to be generated by a mirror. We just select one of these little flat faces. It could be any of them on any of the rings. Go to mirror, and then make sure bodies to mirror are selected, and select any portion of the body. Again, we'll see a little bit of a topology preview. Hit the green check mark to apply, and you are done. As I was saying earlier, this is a very large part at 0.5 for just the size of the thin wire here. So let's look at the ability SolidWorks has to actually shrink things down. If you ever need to scale an object, this is just a side note. You go to Insert, find Features, and you'll find Scale. And in this case, we could scale it down. If we wanted to scale it down to half this size, we would put in 0.5. Or if we wanted to make it a quarter of the size, you put 0.25. Or whatever value you want for that. So I'll make it a quarter of the size, 0.25. And make sure uniform scaling set. If you're into mold design for some reason, you do have the ability to turn off uniform scaling and adjust it in X, Y, and Z axes. But we're going to leave it at uniform scale. Hit the green check mark to apply. And now it's a quarter scale. And if we were to measure, like if we do a cross section here, and go in and measure one of these circles or these arcs, we have the measure tool under Tools, Measure. You got the little tape measure, and you just could select the edge, and here will give us the arc length 0.357, which actually is not exactly what I wanted. Chord length 0.035. I think it's because it's a radial object. Actually, if I go back to this tool, there we go. Maybe get in there a little bit deeper versus right through the center. Now we should be able to measure this accurately. So we could go back to Tools, Measure, select this edge. And I want to get a radius for some reason. I'm not getting the radius. Oh, there's diameter, 0.125. There we go. All right, that's what I was looking for before. All right, so as you can see, the scale factor works. Save this off as E7, and you are finished.